Well, hello. My name is David Thomas, and this is my partner, Matthew Chen. We're happy to be here. We're thrilled to be here to talk about TAP. This is something that we've been working on for a couple months now with our programming team, and we're just super excited to talk about eyes-free audio recording. So to give you some background, Matt and I are both University of Chicago undergraduate students. And, well, we like going to class. I mean, it's fun. I mean, we learn quite a bit. And in class, we find that we actually love to record the lectures that go on. It's a great way for us to review a lot of the material and a lot of the stuff before midterms. And with finals coming up, it's something that we frequently go back to. But frequently, when we actually record class notes, we run into two major problems. The first being navigating audio and then organizing that audio. Very, very frequently, we take a recording and we end up with this right here, a waveform. You go through the waveform, you're scanning through it, you have no idea where the important bits are. If you take an hour or 20-minute recording, you're then just scanning through, just trying to find the bits that really matter to you, and it takes additional time to actually locate those. And we found this very frustrating. This was a very big pain for us, because for us, our time is valuable as students, and we wanted to make sure we're doing as much as we can to accelerate our review and make sure it's as efficient as possible. So we thought, well, we can't be the only students with this problem. And so we actually sent a survey out to 150 students, an anonymous survey, asking them about their audio recording habits. And we found that 83% of those students actually currently wish to record. They wish they could actually use audio recording, but they don't currently do so because of that problem of the waveform. It's such a struggle for them to actually take a recording and then go back and then find it to be useful when they're spending so much time actually trying to find, again, the parts that matter. And so then we asked, well, how many people actually record? And we found that 13% of the 150 respondents actually currently record. When there's something like 15,000 students at the University of Chicago, well, we felt like this was a great initial market to start testing and finding out more about audio recording and to bring this kind of product to them. But then audio recording is not something that is just limited to students. While this is like an initial market to start testing and finding out more, we find that students are a great starting point, but that we can actually go further than that. Audio recording is something that has applications to several professional industries. And we find that it's a great way to go back and review material. Whether you're interviewing a client, if you're a journalist and you're doing a report on someone, going back and being able to find the parts that matter in your audio are crucial. It's a great tool to have and something that I think makes your work a lot easier and more efficient. So we started looking at the market. What are people currently using to actually record their audio? How are they making this an efficient process? And the first and one of the more popular options that we saw was Recordium. As you can see here, it's a beautiful application. It's got these very simple toggles here to annotate your audio. That's convenient. That's great. You can very easily mark and denote where the parts that matter to you are. But then, as we kept using it, we found some very distinct shortcomings. If you'll notice on the screen here, these are the actual parts where you actually have to denote and put down your annotations. And that's pretty small just on the projections. Let me zoom that in for you. It's even smaller on your phone. So if you can imagine sitting in lecture, sitting in an interview or something, and you're taking an audio recording, and you're trying to tap and to put in your annotations, it's going to be a pain because you're looking and you cannot find the exact small icon to actually put that highlight, that annotation in there. And that's frustrating. And we found that in addition to that, when we were actually recording and trying to find the actual annotations, even after clicking it, frequently a paywall would come up and say, oh, if you want another annotation, pay $2.99. Which, when you're in the middle of a lecture, it's a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a struggle. And so we felt, we can do better. There must be something better out there. And so we continued. And the second most popular recording device that we found, or recording iOS that we found, was Simple Mic. Simple interface. The name describes it all. Start and stop annotations, or start and stop recording with just a swipe. No problem. You can easily go back in and out of your recording. But then you still end up with the waveform that you're still struggling with. So while this is a cool interface, it still gives you that same waveform, just a different way to get to it. And we felt, again, that's just not enough. You need the annotation and you need the recording to navigate and organize your audio. And so, working the past couple months, we came up with our own solution, TAP. TAP is a recording iOS application that allows you to take your eyes completely off of the audio recording app. It allows you, as you can see from the simple interface, to interact with a very simple, straightforward interface using gesture commands. Using taps, swipes, holds, you can annotate, start, stop, edit your audio without actually having to ever look at your phone. Suddenly, you're taking audio recordings without ever having to pay attention to the audio recorder itself. It becomes a discrete device that makes you more powerful. In addition to that, we actually also offer folder organization and an easy way to review, edit, and share audio. As you can see in the waveform there, there's highlights, there's bookmarks, they're easy to edit, and it's a very convenient way to just go back and to create audio that empowers you. But seeing screenshots doesn't really capture the application itself. So let's actually go and see a live demo. So once you've downloaded the application, you'll go through a simple terms of use, and we'll show you our gestures. We find that these are just natural movements that you would normally do where you're kind of tapping your pen or something like that. We're just leveraging those now to create an audio recording. Okay, let's actually do this. Okay. And so now, it'd be one thing just to show you the app. It'd be another thing to actually give it some use. So this event's actually being covered by a digital news outlet called Chicago Eno. Those guys are reporters. They're on a tight deadline, and they want to cover as much as possible. So we're going to go ahead and make a recording, and we're going to help them out. If you'll notice, I've gone ahead and started the recording. You can see the waveform down there. Very simple, didn't even have to look at the application. And then when I want to make a particular highlight or something like that, I can just tap or hold down on the phone, and it will denote that that point is very important. And so I can go back to it very easily later. So for instance, if I say an excellent quote for a journalist such as, "Tap recorder was designed by Fritz Anderson and a team of rock star interns," I can just hold down and keep it recorded. And so as it continues recording, it actually denotes that quote as an actual important piece. And so as I'm having the conversation, I can very easily just place my phone down, and someone says something that's important, I just very easily tap my phone. It's easily done. If someone has a question, just pause, no problem, easily done. And when I want to keep going, I can just very quickly stop. So swipes, taps, holds, a very convenient and easy way to start accessing that audio. Now, once you're done taking the audio recording, you can then go back and review in the simple interface that we have. There's all of the bookmarks, all the highlights, all the notes. Okay. Conveniently placed there for you. And so we feel like it's a great tool to start your audio recording on a new level. So let's go ahead and switch back. So in moving forward, we realized that taking audio recordings where you can annotate simply and record simply and share easily, that's one great aspect of it, but we want to push it further. So we're actually going to go ahead and do an Apple Store release, make sure that we have the features that we currently have and that they're set well. And then after that, we want to move into a new kind of area, frontier for us. So we're actually in the Polsky Accelerator, or we will be in the 2015 class of the Polsky Accelerator. They're actually going to help us develop this further. And specifically, they're going to guide us in actually, in programming it further, taking it to the Apple Watch. Because as this is something that's very convenient, very easy to use, something that uses the natural motions of your body, why not put it on a wearable that works just like that? And so we feel like transitioning to the Apple Watch is a great first move, and then eventually getting into this idea of transcription. Now, before I finish here, I want to emphasize that the future step, the big kind of jump for us, is going to be getting into transcription. Because we feel that if you can actually not only create audio and annotate it, you can then also transcribe it using certain APIs that we're working with, and create annotated transcriptions. Imagine going into a lecture, taking an audio, annotating it without ever having to leave without ever having to look away from your client or your teacher or whatever have you. And then being able to then create a transcription that has those same notes put into it. We think that's a powerful way to then engage and take part in the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, esteemed judges, feel free to start asking questions.
So have you had any users on this yet?
Yes, yeah. So we've
talk about the experiences there.
Sure. So we've had, out of the 150 survey respondents, we had 118 users just going through the application. These are all students.
Tried it.
Yes, they all tried it. And so this was just asking them to take simple audio recordings and have simple conversations, and while they're doing that, try to use the gestures. And we found that users very quickly picked it up. It was very simple to use. Some of the users actually asked for the audio recordings afterward, and it was very easy to
Okay,
work with.
so the slide you had that said what percentage of them wanted to use recording, or wanted to record and weren't doing it, what was that? Like 13%
So currently
of them?
83%. 83% were not.
83% are not doing it. And then there was another one
There was a
that said
13% that were.
that were doing it.
That were audio recording, just generally audio recording, yeah.
Okay. So what was there then take up from the people that downloaded it? I mean, are they now using it, or have they become really engaged with it, or was it just a trial for them?
So it was a trial at that point because we did not actually have the ability to share it with everyone freely yet, unless you had a UChicago ID. And so not all of those users were UChicago students. And so, but now, yes, they would be able to use it. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a fabulous presentation. When you think about the opportunity to record hundreds of conversations or lectures, you know, and you've talked about the front end, tell us a little bit about the back end and how do you manage all that data?
So the big move we're going to make with that is speaking to Chicago Innovation Exchange, and we've got a lot of mentoring from them. They've recommended working with Amazon Web Services in particular to create a place to store that data and then to also access it quickly. Yeah, is that?
Yeah, that's great. And then when you think about sort of more the commercial opportunities, you brought up medical as an example.
Sure.
How do you view, or how have you thought about privacy issues and other things where people may or may not be aware of exactly what's going on?
Yeah, so originally, we actually pivoted. Originally, we were going to be a medical recording application, and we noticed that there were several HIPAA privacy issues that we were running into. And so when we've interviewed like 5 doctors, and we asked them, you know, how could you see yourself using this? And a number of them said, in taking audio notes, I believe doctors take dictations, that's a way that they could use it to return back to later. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in recording patient conversations, but it could be in just allowing them to go back and review their notes. So.
Thank you.
So the way they would use it then would be, as they're getting ready to say something really important, they highlight it?
Yes, so for instance, like after, my understanding is after a physician has seen a patient, they take audio
Right.
notes. And so if perhaps like a patient, like there's a particular family history point or something like that that is very important, they could highlight that very easily. And because it's so convenient, they don't have to stop. I know
Right.
with like drag
And
annotation.
then they could go back and refer to it.
Yeah.
I
and
think the big challenge for something like that is, you know, putting it in the place where they can actually use it, which is the medical record. And so there's a different set of interoperability issues and data
right.
management issues there. But that's an opportunity.
Can you talk me through a little bit what the sound quality is and how it's integrating into the actual recording on a given device?
So could you clarify, like?
So with a lot of recording tools, the pain point that comes up is that the sound quality isn't good enough, that the person who's listening to their audio notes or whatever they've recorded, and so they can't actually understand what they've recorded. And then also I just wanted to understand how your app integrates with whatever recording device or audio capabilities are on, you know, the iPhone, which is where you've started.
So with sound quality, that's actually something that the user can control. If they want to create higher quality or lower quality sound, if it's, for instance, a larger sound file, they can control that. So for instance, if you're taking like a 3-hour lecture recording, you can lower the sound quality if you feel like, you know, it's going to take up a fair amount of space on my iPhone. But that's up to the user to control that. And we found that just in user tests, the iPhone mic, like we've tried to like really harness the gain in that microphone, so it's worked pretty well. So, yeah.
Is there a way to harness this technology for not recordings that you're making, but for audio clips like that you would download?
So potentially, I mean, like this is, in fact, I mean, the way we look at it is, you know, this starts with audio recording, but it is very much a new kind of interface with audio, whether it be clips or
Right.
just kind of recordings you take.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
I'm struggling with this use case because it's not the way I learned. So I have to synthesize and then write it down in my own words. I don't want verbatim. So I'm struggling with that. But I recently talked with a startup that was doing, and they were doing this with written pieces. But they had a technology that allowed you to actually lift quotes and statistics and things like that and then create a library. And their use case, and they're getting some traction, was really with marketing firms, people who are writing reports. And you know, you'll save something, you'll bookmark it, but then you're like, oh, was that Forbes thing, or was it da-da-da-da, and then you have to go searching through the whole thing. This kind of reminds me of that in an audio sort of setting. And I think that could be really useful if you could just sort of, you know, lift bits that you wanted to remember for later and store them someplace.
Yeah, I mean, we hope, like with the highlights feature and with the ability to kind of like denote the parts that matter, we are steadily building towards the ability to share just the highlights or something like that, if that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sort
also
of, but
something-
not with recordings that I make. These would be just
Sure.
with, you know, with clips that I would lift off of, you know,
Right,
NPR
right, okay.
or whatever it is. Just
But yeah.
kind of thinking ahead. Because one of the things I'm struggling with is how do I know it's, you know, if I'm going to highlight something that's important, I have to know that's going to be important before it's said. I don't really know how I
Sure.
would do that.
Sure, and actually what we do is when we actually...
You can go back.
I mean, we can, if you want to plug it in. But when I'm actually recording, the way the actual highlight works is that it actually goes 3 to 5 seconds
back. I
And so
wondered
you're-
about that because
yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh, that was important. Damn. Now I'm going to.
Because you'll notice there's actually a lag between when I said the quote and when I actually started highlighting, because I already knew that it would actually go 3 or 5 seconds back and capture that. So I didn't have to start immediately there if I didn't need to.
Yeah, I
So-
mean, I think there's a little bit of a user learning thing going on
Sure,
here.
sure.
So how do you intend to make money from this?
Yes, good question. So the two big ways we're looking at is there's certain features, particularly with private sharing, going back to kind of more of the private sharing that we want to do for particular users. The private sharing feature and having certain additional annotation features, we'd put that for premium account users. And then eventually we'd like to work into, if we have a transcription model, then having something where when users pay for transcriptions, they would actually give us a kickback. So that's
Okay. And then how are you going to roll it out?
how are like, roll it out in what sense?
So it's available now, right?
Yes,
It's,
so-
it's on the App Store. So how do you get people to start downloading it?
So the big way, and we're currently working with Polsky to figure out the best marketing strategy for this, but the big way we're going to be doing it is through just having events with 1871 and, for instance, other local incubators and stuff like that to present this to them. Frequently with app sales, we've found that word of mouth, having people that you trust tell you this is a great app, is a very powerful way to get people using it.
So you mentioned that you're starting on an iPhone platform, right? And then you're transitioning over to Apple Watch, and then you want to move into transcription. But I was just wondering, are you going to integrate this into Android or other wearables? And then at what point in the future are you thinking about transcription? What's sort of the tech that goes behind that? What is your like 18 to 24 month plan?
Sure. So the big thing is Polsky Accelerator is going to give us the next 4 months or so where we're going to work on this. And that's going to be the large time where we really figure out how do we incorporate transcription, what's the best API to use, and then how do we then move on to the Apple Watch. As far as like the long-term plan, I think transcription is something that's going to take us the next 6 to 8 months to really integrate effectively and to really understand how to like work that out. But yes, so we do want to roll it out end of the month into the App Store, and then to have more user testing to really figure out where we want to go with it.
Can I just ask one last question?
Sure.
You've talked about a B2C kind of play, but you haven't really mentioned B2B. I mean, do you see any B2B opportunities?
So as students, like our immediate access is to other like graduate programs and students like that. So the kind of like group, before we get to businesses, the kind of big group that we want to analyze is with, for instance, like anthropology departments or with PhD students, who then they're doing a lot of field research. And so giving them something like this and having a large group like that, an entire department, for instance, working on this, I think is going to be the first step, and then moving from there to a journalist or like a Chicagoino or like something like that is the next step. So
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Great, guys. Thanks.